Hello students, hope you're all doing good. I'm F. Merlin Tordrix, and today we shall continue with the last part of our story, The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin. In our previous lectures, we saw the biography of the author as well as we started with the text. Kate Chopin introduced the characters right at the beginning, where Mrs. Maillard has a weak heart and her sister, Josephine, takes great care to reveal the news of Mrs. Maillard's husband's death. Mr. Richard brings the news to the family. After the initial cry and sobbing, Mrs. Maillard goes to her room all alone and sits there to ponder on what has happened to her. Mrs. Maillard sees trees moving in the new spring wind, smells the scent of the rain outside, and hears the sound of the street below and bird song coming from the eaves of nearby buildings. She could feel something is coming, some weird feeling is coming from the sky, something is reaching out from the sky. Slowly she is able to sense that it is free. The word free comes to her mouth and she senses the freedom that she is going to enjoy. So let's continue reading the text. We stopped here where she repeats the word free for 3 times, saying how much freedom she is going to enjoy after the death of her husband. Okay, let's continue reading. She did not stop to ask if it were or were not a monstrous joy that held her. A clear and exalted perception enabled her to dismiss the suggestion as trivial. Monstrous means evil or wicked, an unkind joy. Exalted means extreme happiness. And the word trivial means of little value. So she says that she did not stop to ask if it were or were not a monstrous joy that held her. She did not ponder on this topic as whether enjoying that she's now happy that her husband is dead and she's going to enjoy the freedom. Is this a weird and evil feeling, an unkind feeling towards her husband? She didn't stop to think about it. A clear and exalted perception, an extreme joy, an extreme kind of happiness that she's going to enjoy came first, and she dismissed the thought. It is to think about the happy days that she's going to enjoy without a husband. Okay, that moment of not thinking about a husband's death as trivial. Okay, trivial means of little value, thinking a husband is dead and I should be sad. So that sadness she's keeping aside and she's enjoying the extreme happiness. Okay, let's continue. She knew that she would weep again when she saw the kind, tender hands folded in death, the face that had never looked save with love upon her, fixed and grey and dead. But she saw beyond that bitter moment a long procession of years to come that would belong to her absolutely, and she opened and spread her arms out to them in welcome. So she says that she knew that she would weep again. She would surely weep when she sees the dead body of her husband. Surely she's going to weep by seeing the tender hands folded in death, seeing the face which is going to be grey and dead. Okay. As of course she says sometimes her husband has looked at her with love. So she is going to weep for seeing at that dead husband, but she saw beyond that bitter moment a long procession of years. But beyond that she could sense that long procession of years, the long years that yet to come, that is going to give her absolute joy and happiness. There would be no one to live for her during those coming years. She would live for herself. There would be no powerful will bending her in that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. A kind intention or a cruel intention made the act seem no less a crime as she looked upon it in that brief moment of illumination. So she says that she is going to enjoy those years where nobody is going to live for her. There would be no one to live for her, but she would be living for herself. Okay, those moments will be the powerful moments. There would be, and those moments will be the joyful moments for her, she says. And she says there'll be no one in her life hereafter to have a blind persistence. Persistence means to prolong something. Blind persistence to prolong something. Here it is the power of men over the women. Okay, so that power, the control of men over the women will be ending right now. That is, here the fellow creature is the women, she says. So there are men thinking that they could have rights over the women and try to prevent them from enjoying their happiness or not taking into consideration their desires. So all those moments are coming to an end. Okay. So a kind intention or cruel intention made the act seem no less a crime. So she says that whether the men are imposing their power on the women with a kind intention or a cruel intention, whatever, the imposing of their power or their force on the women, she says that it is a crime. Okay, and she says thinks about that moment and she moves on to the next feelings. Okay, and yet she had loved him sometimes, often she had not. So she says that yes, she had loved her husband for sometimes, but most often she has not loved him, it seems. What did it matter? What could love, the unsolved mystery, count for in the face of this possession of self-assertion, which she suddenly recognized as the strongest impulse of her being? So she says that what does it matter if I loved him or not? Those the moment of love, she says, or calls it as unsolved mystery. Okay, and she now says that let that go away, because now what is more important for her is that there is a possession of self-assertion, that she's going to enjoy a moment of self-assertion. Self-assertion, word meaning a confident and a forceful expression or promotion of oneself. So she's going to enjoy her personal being without her husband, and that came before her. And she says the moment that whether she allowed her husband or not is going to be very trivial, and she's going to enjoy being herself. Then, free, body and soul free, she kept whispering. So these words she kept repeating, showing that how free she felt after the death of her husband. Even though the moment is something sad, and she should be sad, and she should feel lost and lonely, but now she enjoys a kind of freedom rather than being in a sadness. Okay, so that this shows that how much she was in that confinement, or how much she was being bitterly in the marriage life, and she earned for freedom. Okay, let's continue reading. Josephine was kneeling before the closed door with her lips to the keyhole, imploring for admission. Louis, open the door. I beg, open the door. You will make yourself ill. What are you doing, Louis? For heaven's sake, open the door. So we could see Josephine, her sister, she was kneeling near the door and she was shouting through the keyhole of the door. Imploring, the word means making an earnest or desperate appeal, or asking her sister to open the door. Her sister's name is Louis. Okay, so Louis Mellard is her sister's name. So our main character. So Louis, open the door. She's begging her to open the door. You will make yourself ill. You will harm yourself because you have heart trouble if you're going to stay inside in one room. So she's asking or begging her to open the door. Go away. I'm not making myself ill. No, she was drinking in a very elixir of life through that open window. Okay, so she says, go away, I'm not making myself ill. So Louis says that, no, I'm not making myself ill. I'm so happy. And she says, she's not saying it, but she's saying, I'm not making myself ill. And she says she was drinking a very elixir of life. Elixir means, that word means, elixir meaning is magical or medical potion that is going to change something. So here she's drinking that elixir of life, that is the freedom that she's going to enjoy in her life. So she was enjoying those moments of freedom. Okay, so she says, no, I'm not going to harm myself. So we'll stop for right now, and we'll continue in the next portion. So in this part, we saw that Louis sitting down and she's explaining the moment, even though some might feel it's a monstrous or an unkind moment to think that she's going to be free after husband's death. She says it's okay because the self-assertion or giving importance to herself is more important, and she says she's going to enjoy the free life hereafter. Okay, without her husband, she's going to enjoy the life. Those moments she was thinking and enjoying that particular moment, and we saw that Josephine standing out of the door and calling Louis to come outside because she has heart problem and she would harm herself. But she says she's okay, she's all fine, and that's where we're going to stop right now, and we'll continue the rest of the chapter in the next part. Okay, children, thank you.